For centuries, power in the Middle East didn't belong to kings or even empires. It belonged to something far more dangerous, a system. A system that could unite tribes, build empires, and then tear them apart from within. For over 1,000 years, it shaped the rise and fall of one of the most powerful civilizations the world has ever seen. This is how power moved through the Islamic world. In the 6th century, Arabia was nothing special, a harsh desert surrounded by giants. To the east, the Persian Empire. To the west, the Byzantine Empire. And in between them scattered tribes. No unity, no central power. But that was about to change. Around the year 570, a man named Muhammad was born in Mecca. At first his message was simple: one God, one truth. But what he was really introducing was something much bigger, a new form of power, you see. Religion didn't just unify belief, it unified people. And for the first time, the tribes of Arabia began to act as one. Not as rivals, but as a single force. By the time of Muhammad's death in 632, Arabia was no longer divided, it was unified, and that unity became a weapon. After his death, a new title emerged, the Caliphate. The successor, not just a political leader, but the center of power itself. And what followed was one of the fastest expansions in history. In just a few decades, this new Islamic state didn't just grow, it exploded. It crushed the Persian Empire. It took land from the Byzantines, and it spread from the deserts of Arabia to North Africa and beyond. But here's the truth. This empire wasn't stable because power was never fully agreed upon. You see, not everyone believed the same person should lead, and that disagreement would never go away. It split the Islamic world into two major groups, the Sunnis and the Shiites, a division that still shapes the world today. 2010 came a shift. Power moved from elected leaders to dynasties. The Umayyads took control, and for the first time, power became inherited, father to son. This changed everything, because now the empire wasn't just expanding, it was becoming structured, organized, centralized. At its peak, the empire stretched from Spain all the way to Central Asia, a massive superpower. But like every empire, it grew too fast, and consequently at a cost. And eventually, cracks began to form. Rebellions, civil wars, internal divisions. And then, it collapsed. From that collapse, a new power rose, the Abbasids. But instead of expanding outward, they focused inward. They built Baghdad, a city that would become the center of the world. And this is where things changed again, because power was no longer just military. It became intellectual. Science, medicine, mathematics, philosophy. The Islamic world entered its golden age. You see, they didn't just conquer land. They mastered knowledge. But power built on knowledge is still fragile. Slowly, control began to slip. Local rulers started gaining independence. The Caliphate still existed, but only as a symbol, because real power was fragmenting. And when power fragments, it invites invasion. That invasion came. In the 13th century, from the east came the Mongols. Of course, unlike anything the world had seen, they tore through cities, destroyed empires. And then they reached Baghdad in 1258. They burned it to the ground, the center of knowledge gone, the golden age over. But power doesn't disappear. It shifts. New rulers emerged. Warriors, slaves, soldiers, and kings. to claim leadership to the next chain of the cycle. The Mamluks rose in defeating the Mongols, stopping their advance. At the same time, new empires spawned. And these empires would come to rule for the next couple of years, each covering different timelines. The Ottomans, the Safavids, the Mughals, they were power machines. These weren't just kingdoms, they were power machines, built on gunpowder strategy and control, driving with determination and willpower. And for centuries, they dominated, they expanded, and they controlled. The Ottomans in particular became the new center of power, expanding into Europe, taking Constantinople, and declaring themselves the leaders of the Islamic world. But even this wouldn't last forever. Because the same pattern kept repeating. Power rises, it expands, it fractures, and then it falls. For over 1,000 years, this cycle defined the Islamic world. Not just religion, not just empire, but systemic power. And the truth is, that system never really disappeared. And if you look closely, you can still see it. It just changes form. Power rising, power shifting, power repeating the same cycle in a continuous loop over and over again. Every empire that rose, they believed they could rewrite this story, break the cycle, control power forever. But every attempt led to the same end. Because the system doesn't change. It waits. It adapts. History has shown that in the end, the system always wins. History along this line has a way of repeating itself. But could this cycle be broken in this new age? Do you think this cycle of power is still happening today?